Hello friends, you're listening to Profoundish. I'm your host Weston, and I'll be joined by Alex as we reminisce over old cartoons we used to watch as children. Then, later, we will be playing a game of Join, Defeat, Romance, where we present each other with lists of animated villains that we have to either join, defeat, or, well, romance. Stay tuned, you're listening to Profoundish. Welcome everybody to Profoundish. I'm your host today, Weston Hasty, and I'm joined by
Alex Duquette. Come on down.
He's the co-host. He hosted last week. He'll host next week. We do this kind of back and forth thing, and each week we talk about some kind of topic that we're interested in talking about that week, and then host a segment toward the end that is related to that topic in some kind of way.
And that is our slogan.
That is a very long slogan, but it's the one we have, and it's the one we're sticking to.
And repeat after me. It's the show where we both have a topic that we come up with each week where...
I think I don't even know if that was accurate. I don't know if you nailed it or not. I don't even remember what I said the first time.
Yeah, you never do you?
I really don't. We've talked about, was it on this show or were we just talking in person about, yeah, it was this show, I think, where you were talking about one of the first things we shot together was for that English project you did. I remember having this like long speech that we were practicing for what I was going to say in the scene. I had this long thing I said, and you're like, that's perfect, do that again. And I was like, I don't remember a word of what I just said.
Yeah, we talked about that on a Hasty podcast, your personal podcast, which everybody should check out.
That's right. Okay, I couldn't remember where we said that. I'm like, we have said that on a podcast, a show, or in person. We both have separate podcasts, by the way, dear listener. You're listening to Profoundish. You should continue to listen to Profoundish. We love the show. We're having a lot of fun doing it. And if by the end of it you feel like you want more of us individually, I have a podcast called A Hasty Podcast where I talk about video games, movies, etc. And Alex has a podcast called The Two Ps Podcast.
Yeah, where basically we it's about me. It involves me and my significant other, Steph, and we compare and contrast our top fives on a variety of topics, kind of blindly. We don't know what the other person's gonna have in their list. It's a lot of fun, and you learn a little bit along the way too. It's
honestly a better show than mine. You should definitely check that out.
Just different,
in the
not
meantime. It's better, everybody.
No, don't
my
say that.
show's a sham. It's terrible.
Hey, you know what you have that is better? You're burning incense right now. All I have is a damn candle.
I'm burning dragon blood incense.
Ooh.
Sun-god the dragon. Indulge in the mystical aromas delivered by exclusive collection of highly fragrant incense sticks.
So
it doesn't really describe the smell in any way whatsoever.
No, but the marketing did its job.
Yeah, it did what it needed to.
So I am burning Ocean Breeze.
Very different smell, I imagine, from what I'm smelling. Mine feels very much like you've entered an ancient temple. It's kind of musty, kind of like old. I feel like your Ocean Breeze is kind of like laundry and fresh.
Yeah, mine's basically just like, hey, you threw some Gain detergent in your washer and it's spinning.
Well, I'm not going to knock that because there is definitely a time and place for that scent, and that's usually what I like if I've got little scent pods or whatever to put in my bathrooms or my laundry room. That's what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for like to zone out playing video games or whatever, I go for these weird. I just go sheerly by the name. So this one was Dragon Blood. So I'm like, okay, that sounds intense. Let's try that one.
You know what? I've never burnt incense in my life. Maybe that's something I should look into because it sounds like there's a vast world out there that I haven't discovered yet.
There kind of is a vast world. One, just scents and scentsy type stuff. And if you get into it, there's a lot to choose from. And incense is one that has a wide selection from cheap to expensive. You can do a lot of different things with it. And I don't know, I started getting into it on a whim, just looking for different ways to odorize the house, right? Between what I've done, melting the wax. I've done those little automatic sprays that spray every minute or whatever. I like incense for I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to light an incense stick. It's going to set the mood, and there you go. I don't know.
Have you noticed? Have you noticed an enhancement in the mood setting process? Has it been helpful?
It's like psychological, right? Like I want to be in a mood for a thing. So like if it's gaming, if it's like editing, if it's whatever I'm doing, I'm setting a mood for myself. So I light whatever incense that I have that I want to, because you can get several different kinds and you can pick your favorites for what you want to do. The only thing with it is that because it's incense and it's burning a stick, it is kind of like smoky. It's not like smoky like something's like your house is on fire, but it's definitely smoky. So that's something to keep in mind if you're someone who is sensitive to that kind of thing where you're going to sneeze a lot or like you have breathing issues, don't do that. But I really like the aesthetic of having a cool incense stand or whatever that you put your incense sticks into, having an aesthetic thing like that, kind of in a corner or by a light or something like that, and the smoke kind of comes up. It's very aesthetic. It just kind of like, especially if you just kind of look over and you just kind of look at the little smoke stream just kind of gently floating up to your ceiling or whatever. So it's I don't know, it's just a very like almost Zen experience sometimes with incense.
Well, I've always been intrigued by those who burn incense, and you know what? That might have just pushed me over the edge to give it a shot. Maybe I can report back here on the show and let you know what I think.
You should, because and you should report back because I'm very curious to see what you try. But that is not today's topic.
No, but here we are.
Now that we're well into our podcast, everybody, today's topic that I want to talk to you about is I want to know your history with watching animated shows, animated television, animated movies. This has nothing to do with incense. I don't know why I'm like why I like incense so much, but I'm pretty sure it's not related to animated shows.
Yeah, not really. Not much connection there. Yeah,
not much.
Animated shows. Yeah, I mean, when you're a kid, what do? You watch your cartoons, right? And you and I were born in really what I consider like the golden age of like just the cartoons that are for the whole family, meaning not what I mean is like adult humor, kid humor. I mean, that was like the culmination of Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, all of these like huge, networks back in the 90s.
Yeah, big networks.
So big networks. I mean, of course, there were cartoons before and there are cartoons now, but it really doesn't seem to have matched the quantity and quality that it was in the mid to late 90s and early 2000s. That's what it seems like.
I know that that's probably a to taste type of thing, but definitely if you look at the general vibe that like cartoon shows on either of those networks today air versus what they used to air 20 years ago, it is a different energy, different vibe. Like they're trying to be different. I mean, I get it. They're for different people. They're not for us anymore. So I get it.
Yeah, totally get that. And yeah, it's always good to remember too, sometimes, sure, I mean, your rose-tinted glasses sort of situation. However, I'm pretty sure sheer quantity, if nothing else, does hold true. Because half these networks now are still playing the shows that we were watching half the time. I mean, you look at Nickelodeon, plus the whole landscape of television has changed. That's a different topic. But you know what? I'm veering off. Let's go back to the beginning. How about that, Weston? Because that's the thing. You and I could just go anywhere.
Like. I'm okay with that because all I really want to talk about is the shows that we used to watch, much in the same way that you were focusing on early video gaming memories last week. I'm kind of focused on like, what's your early animated show, cartoon show, even cartoon movies? What kind of comes to mind when we like look back at our earliest exposure to animation?
Well, I think one great place to start, and it actually kind of goes back to where I was about to veer off to Nickelodeon. What is the show that is still aired on Nickelodeon and is beat to death, like, beat the dead horse sort of situation? What show is that? You can tell me what it is.
I'm going to sound stupid if it's not Nickelodeon, but I'm thinking you might just be talking about SpongeBob.
Absolutely, it's SpongeBob. But here's the thing about SpongeBob, right? SpongeBob wasn't my first cartoon, but it by far was the one that completely just grabbed me. Because I was there with SpongeBob from the very beginning. I mean, it literally did, in my opinion, define a generation. I used that phrase jokingly earlier, but truly, I mean, we as millennials, younger millennials, still, I mean, it's everywhere. SpongeBob is still everywhere in internet culture. It is referenced in my life day to day with people that are around my same age and older. My parents loved SpongeBob.
It's still absolutely relevant. Yeah, old, young, everything in between.
And it's 20 plus years old. I have an actual specific memory that I can share about this too. So SpongeBob debuted in '99, believe it or not. And I remember sitting at my grandmother's house. I always sat in her this little like, I don't know, little sunroom area. There's this big table, and then there was a little TV, a little tiny TV. And I remember seeing commercials for this new show called SpongeBob. So this was '99. I remember this. So I had to have been, I was 5, right? I wasn't old. But I remember watching this TV and seeing promotions for the SpongeBob show. And I remember my first memory watching it, I didn't like it. Like, I remember thinking, but it was probably just because it was like a new show or whatever. But I remember being there for the first episode. But then I clearly watched a couple more episodes, and it didn't take long because I remember those early ones, like the one where I'm going to dig deep into the recesses of our minds here. But do you remember the one?
Dig deep.
Back where the cobwebs are. The one where like they're blowing bubbles, the bubble blowing stand. It's one of the very first ones.
That's one that's not standing out to me, but maybe. Go on.
Patrick and SpongeBob have like I can't remember the exact plot. This might be like literally episode 2 or 3 because it was early on. But Patrick and SpongeBob are have a bubble blowing stand, and like they're charging people to use one of their bubble blowing sticks, like 5 cents a blow. And Squidward's like, this is a scam. I can do it on my own. And then he has his own, but he can't blow a bubble to save his life.
Yeah. Is that what I've seen the memes, and I know I've seen this episode, but God, it's been so long. Like you said, this was like '99. That's the one where he has like a competing stand, and then they like get like flavors of bubbles or something?
No,
right?
I know what you're doing.
Something? Or am I thinking...
You're mixing it up.
Am I combining episodes?
Yep, you're combining it with Pretty Patties.
I am. I am thinking Pretty Patties.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
But yeah, so what you there's this one image that you might have in your head you forgot about where Squidward's trying to blow a bubble and his lips are stretched really far and he's going.
actually, yes.
And he's just trying
I love how you just saying that immediately. Like, yes, I remember that exact image.
So, but needless to say, yeah, SpongeBob, a huge influence not only on my taste in, I guess, like animated shows, but also quite literally my childhood. What about your let's start with SpongeBob, your intro to SpongeBob. Let's hear about that. Do you remember any of that?
I correct me if I'm wrong, is the first episode of SpongeBob the one where he's getting his job at the Krabby Patty for the first time? The Krusty Krab for the first time? He has to go like he has to earn his spatula or something? I don't really remember.
I don't know, but I can tell you right now without a doubt that is my favorite episode.
I remember that. I remember seeing that a few times, actually, when I was younger. So it must have been a relatively, like the show must have been relatively new, because my memory of being a kid is already hazy as it is. So it must have been, the show itself must have been relatively new, because they weren't rerunning a lot of different episodes, because I remember watching that one a couple of times. And I remember the hash-slinging slasher came a bit later. I remember that image of the Squidward that you said. I was someone who introed to SpongeBob randomly. I didn't hear about it. No one told me about it. It was on Nickelodeon. I watched it. I'm like, haha, funny SpongeBob. SpongeBob did not define my my animated show childhood like it did apparently everybody else around me who constantly can quote SpongeBob, who knows what episodes everything came from. The older I get, I don't know why this is so prevalent now. The older I get, the more people out of the woodworks that are like, me, he, moi, ni, moi, whatever the frick that one Doodle Bob says. The number
Weston,
of times that is referenced in my weekly life is astounding.
I hope you realize that, and I want you to know this, and I hope it cuts deep, that you are the minority in that. You are, I swear.
I'm willing to accept that I'm the minority guy that I'm like, I liked SpongeBob.
You liked
I had
it, though.
nothing wrong with I didn't think it was meh. I didn't think it was mid. I thought it was good. I liked SpongeBob. But I just do not share the apparent, from my point of view, the apparent obsession with SpongeBob that everyone else had.
Yeah, it's funny because the obsession has really never left, but But that being said, we all know SpongeBob. It's quotable. It's a
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, my favorite memes
show.
have been like freaking the caveman
caveman
SpongeBob
meme. Yes,
memes. I mean,
it is my favorite meme ever.
I love it.
Caveman meme, and
it's
also the Krabby Patty, or not Krabby Patty, Mr. Krabs like Disney meme is funny too.
That one's not ringing a bell off the top of my head right now. But
The
caveman one for sure.
But yeah, that one didn't stand the test of time as much as the caveman one did. But
even though it's ancient by meme standards today, for sure.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, memes are ancient by meme standards, if you ask me. But that's a different topic. So
I actually grew up watching a lot of what for my age was already old cartoons somehow. Like I grew up more remembering fondly Rugrats, which has been around forever. That was like a show when our parents were children or whatever. I don't remember what year Rugrats came out, but loved Rugrats, watched a lot of Rugrats, owned some of their video games.
Those are some great games. I loved Rugrats too.
Yeah.
And that was before us, actually.
Paris one. Yeah, Rugrats was a kid before us, but I somehow grew up on it.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's an interesting topic. I was hearing somebody talk about this. I don't know where it was, but somewhere on social media somewhere, talking about how millennials are kind of like, they seem to be the final generation that really is very aware of pop culture prior to them being born. Because that's a lot of what I watched, too. I watched a lot of stuff that came out in the 80s and the early 90s, like Rugrats. I watched Ren and Stimpy. That was before us.
Yeah, Ren and Stimpy, I never really watched very much of. Everyone of my age is like, oh, yeah, Ren and Stimpy. I'm like, I don't think I watched a single episode of Ren and Stimpy ever to this day.
Really? Well, you should watch it and see what you think, because it's...
I know what it is, because everyone talks about it, but I never experienced Ren and Stimpy. Now, I really liked, because that was like a comedic slapstick duo, Ren and Stimpy. I get that. I liked Angry Beavers.
Loved Angry Beavers. Great theme song.
That was a good one. I loved them. And then the other one that was kind of old was, I always call it Scary Monsters. What was it called? Real Monsters. I always call it Scary Monsters, but it's Real Monsters is what it's called. With the guy who's holding his own eyeballs.
You know, I was afraid to watch that show.
It was actually like a weirdly scary movie, but I also just really liked watching it anyway. Which, I mean, it actually is kind of par for the course for the crap that I used to watch. I say crap, but it was all brilliant. The Real Monsters, Courage the Cowardly Dog years later.
Yep.
Kind of like weirdly, morbidly spooky shows. Eventually, like when I think like really old, when I think like the deepest recesses, the earliest memories of my cartoon history, it's like Real Monsters, it's Angry Beavers, it's Rugrats, and then as I get a little bit older, it's like the Courage Cowardly Dog. It's Doug. I don't know why I loved Doug. That should have been a boring cartoon. Was it?
Yeah, Doug was early.
It might have been,
but I think it ran for a long time.
Doug released. Yeah, you're right. Like 91. Okay, all right.
Now I will say this: if you're going early, like the earliest memories, right? I started with SpongeBob because that's a great place to start. But my earliest memories are pretty similar to yours. Rugrats was a huge one. Angry Beavers was huge. I was a big Hey Arnold guy.
I made a sound just now because I was like, I just had a memory. Hey, I forgot that about Hey Arnold. So I'm glad you brought that up.
You know what's funny? Out of the blue, I mooch off of Steph, my significant other. I mooch off of her like Disney Plus, not Disney Plus, which I think it's Hulu, whatever the streaming platform is that has Hey Arnold. Might be HBO. I don't know what it is. Point is,
I have Netflix and I have Amazon Prime, and I don't think it's on either. Of those.
It's literally on one of the other ones I mentioned then. Not sure which one. However, it is available to be streamed now. So anyway, I was mooching off her. I got on there, and I thought, you know what? I saw Hey Arnold pop up, and I thought, oh, it's on Paramount. That's what it's on. Because Paramount owns those old shows. Or at least owns the streaming rights. So so anyway, I hopped on there, and I watched the very first episode, and let me tell you something. That holds up.
I bet it does. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I mean, the themes, the characters, the animation, I don't see why it wouldn't.
Well, that show got real too, but it was just, they were in it. There was
Yeah.
inner city, but also what I love about that show, the thing about the shows when we were growing up is that they knew that the 5-year-old was watching, but also mom and dad were watching, and they both were engaging in their own ways. Like, watching that show had some funny moments in there that I never would have picked up on as a kid. Not inappropriate per se, but just more, I guess, grown-up themed jokes, or style
Right.
jokes. Just ones you got to actually kind of think about before you realize it's funny, not just slapstick. I was very impressed. I actually watched a few more episodes that evening, and I enjoyed myself. It still holds up. So I was just very impressed by that.
Hey Arnold is one, and I can't believe I forgot about it earlier. Hey Arnold is one of those shows that I think reaches classic status, not for just being popular with a generation of kids watching the show, but it's classic in the sense that it transcends just being animated kids show, right? It's a piece of art. I think Hey Arnold reaches artistic status. And again, just in the themes that it covers, how it does so. I haven't watched it in a long time, but when I think back on shows that sort of like, as I watched them, I knew meant something, Hey Arnold stands out to me.
Right. Yeah, that's you actually very well said. And I'll say in the musician's corner over here, the music is incredible. It is jazz, it is funk, it is jazz funk fusion. It is really, really, really good music. I was so impressed by that. I didn't realize how good that music was. You don't know how good it is until it's gone.
And it's I don't remember the music very well in Hey Arnold. I don't have a brain for holding on to music for some reason. I've played a musical instrument. I can read, I've got some musical something going on.
You wrote Journey into Discord.
I did. I am the author to the hit classic Journey into Discord, coming to Spotify near you. It's not. But I don't have a musical brain for that for some reason. But when you mention music, what's your history with Edd, Edd and Eddie?
Oh, I loved Edd, Edd and Eddie. Edd, Edd and Eddie! Show...
Their soundtrack or audio or whatever, that always stood out.
You know what's hilarious? I don't remember that music, but I do remember the show.
There's something about Edd and Eddie, and the reason you don't really remember the music is because I don't really remember it being. It's not very musical, but like all the different sounds and quirks and things that it has in the show. One, like everybody's got their kind of like own like theme sound or whatever. Like every little sound is like you could make with your mouth. There's something about that show specifically that felt like you could make it in your backyard, which is what the whole show was them making all kinds of crazy stuff in their backyard. But even the music was that way.
That's kind of that. Not that I remember it, but I feel like that makes sense for what I remember the show being.
Yeah.
I remember Edd, Edd and Eddie being one of those shows where it was a little more. I think this was a Cartoon Network show, which was always slightly more edgy than Nickelodeon was in those early days. It became more edgy later, but at the beginning, it was always slightly more edgy, and this was one of those shows. I remember watching it, loving it. I remember feeling physical pain when they would eat the Jawbreakers, though.
Oh, man, I wanted one so bad. I didn't feel pain. I just wanted one.
I saw their giant cheeks. I was like, oh, how's it not hurt? I did love Plank. Plank was my favorite character.
Oh God, I've never thought about having a favorite character.
I just remember thinking the idea of Plank was funny.
I did really like Ralph though.
Yeah.
Ed boy. I don't know. I did really like Ralph. Yeah. I don't know who my favorite would be, but
so yeah, early Cartoon Network, because Cartoon Network did come a little bit later, but early Cartoon Network, yeah, for me it was Edd, Edd and Eddie. It was Dexter. Love Dexter's Lab. Powerpuff Girls, the classics,
The classics. I have a question for you. Did you have any PBS animated shows in mind that you came up with?
Here's the thing. Animated.
Yeah.
God, my PBS fans, which is like I have a lot of PBS fans on my channel, are going to be disappointed. I watched PBS, but not a lot of the animated stuff. I watched like Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street and stuff like that. But do you have any animated memories? Oh wait, I got one. Dragon Tales. I loved Dragon Tales.
Because I'm trying to remember if this was even on PBS. Dragon Tales, I don't think I watched. I'm trying to remember. Oh, you know what? I think I'm wrong. I think this was a Disney. I'm trying to look it up. I think this was a Disney.
You know, if you tell me, I probably know.
Sure
I've covered all of these songs like on my channel, like all of them.
I thought for sure this was PBS for some reason. Do you remember an animated show? This is like for like really little kids. So I'm talking about like early memory. But PB&J Otter.
That was PBS.
Was it PBS? I couldn't remember. Okay, so yeah, that's what I thought. So
oh my God, I
PBS,
forgot about that
PB&J,
show though. Like, but I did watch that.
That, like, when I dig deep into the recesses of my brain, I can't really remember any episodes because we're talking about very young me, and I just it's hazy. But PBS's PB&J Otter.
Oh my
sticks
gosh,
out
yeah.
in my mind. Yeah,
You know, you just opened my mind up too because I think I lied to you. I did because I'm digging deep too. I watched Arthur. That was PBS.
And Arthur. Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I watched a ton of Arthur, but I did watch Arthur for sure. Arthur, PB&J Otter.
Oh my gosh.
I think there might have been another one on PBS, but I'm struggling to like pull it together.
Well, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to give myself a plug. I have covered pretty much every PBS Kids theme song you can imagine as of 2022. Make sure you check it out on YouTube. Just type in Alex Duquette, PBS, you'll find it. Anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. Plug that because it's worth plugging.
Medleys, all kinds of stuff. Every show that we mentioned today, I've covered in my 3-minute, 2-minute medleys. So check them out. Super fun. But yeah, so, gosh, I mean, I think I've covered most of the core early memories. I can't think of any more, because, I mean, I got into more stuff later, but that's easier to remember. I'm trying to really dig back. You mentioned Rugrats. I loved the Rugrats in Paris movie, like you said. I was really into that. Wild Thornberries. That might have been getting a little bit later.
Wild Thornberries.
That
that was later, but that was great. Loved Wild Thornberries.
Darwin the chimp.
What was the Berenstain Bears on? That must have been PBS, right? Yeah.
That was PBS. Yeah.
Barons. I still stand by it to this day. I swear to God, it was Berenstain Bears. Y'all pulled a universe reversal on me.
I know, that's such a weird one. That's probably one of the biggest Mandela effect things. It's so weird.
I've seen the Mandela effect explained. I understand it. I look at the word Berenstain Bears like written out, and I'm like, that's just wrong. That's just wrong.
It was.
I'm like, there's no universe in my head where I've ever seen Berenstain until I was a full-grown adult, and I'm like, why the heck is it misspelled? And it's like, no, it's always been Berenstain. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're crazy.
I know, it's weird. I'm with you, man.
I hate it.
Ugh.
I don't. You have any good old Disney ones that come up as far as like old Disney that like?
Well, the thing is that old Disney, unless you're talking about. Like cartoons, they didn't really do cartoons back then. They did like the movies, but they didn't do cartoons until later. So like with like Kim Possible, Proud Family, which was way later. So
that was later, which those were good shows too.
Good shows.
They did have some good like 90s cartoons, and I'm wondering, do you remember? Again, talk about when we were talking about like dark shows. Like I liked Courage the Cowardly Dog. I liked whatever the other one we were talking. The Real Monsters. I was a big fan of Gargoyles.
Oh, Gargoyles. Yeah. I actually didn't watch that. I'm only familiar with that because of my content. But yes, I am familiar with Gargoyles.
I feel like I was too young to fully appreciate Gargoyles, but there's something about it being dark and mysterious and just, I don't know, I was really into it.
You know, now I think about it, I was totally wrong. Disney Channel wasn't like it was later on, but yeah, they did a lot of rehashes of like older IPs that they owned, and they did Chippendale Rescue Adventures, and they did I did a medley that covered all these too. They had shows for like they had like the Hercules show. They had all kinds of shows. Now I'm drawing blanks. I didn't watch Disney as much.
Because I remember the Gargoyles, and then I was a real big fan of because it had Bear from or the whatever his name Blue from Jungle Book Tailspin.
Tailspin. Did you
ever watch Tailspin? I love Tailspin.
Hold on, Weston. Did you see that medley that I did? My Toon Disney medley. That's what you need to what you need to watch if you haven't seen that one. That's got you all over it.
If it's come out recent, I may have missed it, but I've watched darn near all of your medleys.
Okay.
I might only be missing one or two.
Because that one's got like Tailspin, and I mean it's got all of the shows that you're mentioning. So you should definitely give that one a rewatch if not, because that's exactly what what you're talking about.
I'm
those
sure.
shows.
I feel like I'm sure I have seen it because usually, because it'll come out on Thursdays when you release your medleys. Usually, I watch them pretty much right away when I can. So I've probably seen it somewhat recently, but I just, I was just trying to think of like really old cartoon shows that I know I kind of grew up on, but like they're just at that edge of memory that I don't really remember them well, but I knew they like meant a lot at the time. And Tailspin was one of them. I love that show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as familiar, but you did mention the bear from Jungle Book. I know it's not a show, it's a movie, but I love the Jungle Book. That was probably my favorite Disney cartoon growing up, was Jungle Book. And that's an early memory. In fact, I remember anytime I'd be out like in a forest or just a bunch of trees, I'd be with my dad. I was 3, 4, earliest memories. We'd go looking for Baloo. So
Baloo, yeah, that was his name.
Baloo, yeah. So we'd look around, and my dad I would turn around, he'd throw like a stick in the trees, and I think there was some movie like that might be Baloo. Like that's one of my earliest memories I have with my dad. So yeah, I loved that one in particular.
That's
Jungle
amazing.
Book.
Before we move on, do you have any, off the top of your head, any like really weird, obscure, no one else has ever heard of it, cartoon shows that you loved that come to mind?
Once again, did I hold on? I might have missed.
You broke up for a sec.
Sorry about that. Like early stuff, like super early.
Yeah, just or anything, any random, like a favorite, not the, but like a favorite show of yours that was just random, obscure, no one's really heard of it.
Okay, I got one. So I don't know if I would consider this a favorite, but this was a staple, at least for a time. So this was I believe, a straight-to-video series. But it was a series. It wasn't like a movie. It was a bunch of VHS tapes that you would get. And it was a Christian series, and it was called Mcgee and Me. Now this is kind of a cheat because it's part cartoon, part live action. But picture like your Lizzie McGuire, which is also a good show, where it's like it's her, but then it's also the cartoon version of her.
Okay,
It's similar to that, but that's a show that nobody seems to remember. So if you're listening right now and you remember Mcgee and Me, please tell me, because I don't remember much about it, but I know that I watched it and I loved it as a kid. And it always had like these, nice lessons and stuff and all that. So
yeah, I'm Googling it to see if any of the pictures ring a bell for me, but no, I don't think I saw any of these ones.
89 through 95. So that sounds about right. So it was a little, I was only 1.5 when it ended. But yeah, that's it, Mcgee and Me.
Because I'd have to say my go-to random obscure cartoon that like most people don't remember hearing about, which is fair because it was originally a French animation that was brought to America, was Code Lyoko. And I've actually told you about it before completely randomly, I think, on a different thing before. But Code Lyoko it's a story about these kids in, I guess, middle school, and they're like straddling the line between managing their school life in the real world and saving this like cyber world from this like mysterious computer in this like factory that they discovered. The first episode doesn't explain any of this. You just start the show, this is what they're doing. We're not going to explain why or how. This is what's happening. And it's just, it sucked me into that world as a kid. And I don't know, for some reason that was just really, like, something about it was just wildly different from everything else on at the time. And I remember coming home from school just like, gotta watch this show while, before I do my homework because it's on now and I'm not gonna be able to catch it later. So that's my random obscure one.
Yeah, I've never heard of that I'm familiar with it only because you told me about it and the name is unique.
Yeah. Code Lyoko. It's originally French.
It almost looks like it's gonna be like it's got some anime influence.
Right. It was kind of straddling that line of like cartoon and anime at the time, which I think what really lended itself to being so different to me at the time.
Interesting. That's really cool. I wonder if you can watch it anywhere. Probably not.
You can. But... You can literally watch it on YouTube.
Oh, really?
The actual studio put it on YouTube.
That is awesome.
They're just like, put it out there. All right. And without any further ado, that's cartoons we've watched. Stay tuned for us rating cartoon stuff.
We'll be right back. Bye!
Profoundish is brought to you in part by Magic Man Mo, a gaming YouTube channel run by me. We stream and we do variety Let's Plays. Check out a short stream compilation to see if it's something that you're going to be into. It's a lot of fun. I made it, so I know. That's Magic Man Mo on YouTube.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by Camp Nostalgic Saturday Morning, a show that takes a deep dive into pop culture's biggest questions. I co-host alongside Dave Radigan, and it's a lot of fun. Watch the show and see all the other content offerings at campnostalgic.org.
Welcome back to Profoundish.
That was funny.
It's always funny recording these little breaks between segments. Welcome to a twist on a segment that we did last week called Kiss, Marry, Kill. The twist this week is defeat, join, or romance. It's my twist on Kiss, Marry, Kill, but today featuring animated villains.
Animated villains, the baddies, if you will.
That's right. And I think it's mostly the same idea, right? Defeat is kind of the idea of kill. Join their side or whatever. It's like the idea of marry. And then, of course, romance is kind of like the same idea as kiss. I just wanted to use a different word because the other two were different words. So this is my twist, my take on that. So if you were listening to last week's episode, which you should have, if you haven't, what are you doing? Go back, listen to it.
Yeah, come on.
If you listened to last week's episode, this is like kiss, marry, kill. But this time, defeat, join, romance. Animated villains. Yeah,
I've got my experience in video games, joining factions and dealing with the consequences. So I feel like I'm well suited for these decisions.
Excellent. And you're going to need to, because especially when you consider that join is very different from just like tolerating. Like, you're not just tolerating this villain's side of things. You are joining their side. This is serious business here. And of course, romance is always serious, and of course defeating. These are villains, so defeating should actually be a pretty easy choice to make, as opposed to usually like last week when you had to kill somebody off. This one should be pretty easy. You should kind of want to defeat all these people, but then it's the other two that are interesting.
I know it's going to get spicy.
Are you ready?
Are you ready, kids?
Are you ready, Alex? We're going to do it with sections of 3. I don't really super have these categorized like I did last week. They're loosely categorized in my head, but mostly just by feeling as opposed to a fancy name.
That's fair.
But I've got 3 to start you with. This is defeat, join, or romance.
Okay.
We've got Professor Radigan from The Great Mouse Detective.
Okay.
We've got Clayton, the hunter from Tarzan.
Okay.
And we've got Henry J. Waternoose III from Monsters, Inc.
Oh my gosh. Waternoose. I mean, I love Monsters, Inc. My favorite Pixar movie. So, okay. So let's see here. Let me just start by saying who I'm familiar with. I am lightly familiar with Clayton. I watched Tarzan growing up. I haven't seen it probably in almost 2 decades. But I do see him, and I'm looking it up right now, and he looks like a guy who's up to no good. He carries this rifle around. Not a good guy, looks like.
He's a hunter.
He looks like a hunter. And then we got Radigan. Now, I know nothing about Professor Radigan.
I love The Great Mouse Detective. It's a Disney movie, but it's so underrated. I feel like so few people have seen it compared to other Disney movies. I highly recommend it, actually.
So tell me this then. I'm very familiar with Water News. Can you tell me any maybe relevant information about the other two guys, about Clayton and Professor Radigan? Maybe what their motives are, or something like that. So I have a general idea.
Clayton is the hunter guide hired by I forget his name off the top of my head, but like the professor and Tarzan and Jane, like his daughter. He's hired by them to sort of be their sort of guide and protector in this unknown wilderness, just to keep the animals at bay and whatever. He's got his own sort of secret motives as well in terms of what he's up to in the movie and trying to find certain things that they might be out and looking for. And he's sort of like he wants to conquer nature as opposed to learn about it, coexist with it, document it like the professor is. So he's very much kind of his own thing, but he's also kind of a proper English conqueror type guy. He's out there to prove his dominance. That's kind of who he is as a person, right? So it's not that he hates Tarzan, but he's better than him. Tarzan's a gorilla man, whereas Clayton, he's a proper brought up English hunter man.
Okay.
Professor Radigan, he's in The Great Mouse Detective. It's basically a Sherlock Holmes story. Professor Radigan plays the same position as what's Sherlock's nemesis? I forget his name. Come on,
but
brain.
I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about? His nemesis or whatever? That's who Radigan is trying to be. And he is trying to sort of increase his influence. He's this sort of prim, proper... He doesn't like being called a rat. He hates the fact that he's like a rat. So he hates his like background. If someone calls him a rat, he ends them. He kills them off. Your first encounter with Radigan is one of his lackeys is drunk and calls him a rat by mistake, and he kills the guy. That's in a Disney movie.
Boy.
It happens. It's amazing. Anyway,
boy.
So he's like cold, he's brutal, he's trying to be proper, but because he is a rat, he's also very powerful, and he's also very, like, underneath the cloak, very visceral and animalistic. And he's a great foil to the Great Mouse Detective, who is a mouse. Everyone else is a mouse.
Okay. Well, thank you for the explanations. That does help a little bit. Let me see here. Defeat. Let me start with defeat. So my general rule, I think, in this game tonight is going to be, who am I least in line with? Like, who would I least likely want to join sides with? We got also Water News here, who is exploiting children, basically, to make a profit. A lot of people consider that pretty low.
But he sees it as for the betterment of monster kind. It's an energy crisis, after all.
Wow, you pulled out the script. All right. I didn't expect the scripts to come out. I need to get mine ready.
I've seen the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. I love it. So, actually, this might surprise you here. Okay. You know what? Okay. Listen. I don't like him. Look at these innocent kids. Okay. I think I'm defeating Water News. I'm going to defeat Water News.
He's the one I thought you were going to be most partial to. Okay, interesting.
I think for the same reason why you think that. Well, actually, not the same reason. I don't know why I said that, but the reason is not because I see that very ending scene will always stick with me, and I'm serious when, with Boo and everything, and he freaks her out. No way. Nope, not doing it. Sorry, my heart is too involved. How these kids are manipulated. No, the kids and the monster should live in harmony, Weston. Okay, that's how it should be. So I'm sorry. I'm sticking with it. I already said it. I'm defeating Water News.
Water News is defeated.
So between Radigan and Clayton, oh goodness, I forgot about the romance part for a second here.
Yeah, one you have to join sides with, and the other you have to romance.
So, I'm gonna. I feel like being held in the arms of Clayton would be pretty warming and comforting. He likes to be in charge. You say that he's kind of the alpha male, right?
He's kind of the dominant type.
He's the dominant, I don't mind being thrown around a little bit. I think I'm gonna have a little romance with Clayton.
You're gonna have a roll in the forest with Clayton.
Yeah, I think we're gonna just a roll in the leaves, if you will, in the trees. And I guess I'm gonna join forces with Radigan. Will make sure not to call him a rat. I guess I will say I respect the hustle. I respect the grind. So yeah, I'll join him.
All right. I love it. I love it. You're defeating Henry Waternoose III, having a little bit of a romance with Clayton, but then ultimately joining forces with Professor Radigan.
Oh, that's good.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, me too. This is fun. Okay. So I do kind of have categories still. They're loose though. They're not required for this, but so we'll start here. These are a little more unconventional villains, but they are still villains nonetheless in their respective worlds, right?
I'll take it.
So this one is specifically very simple, one motive villains. There's one clear motive they have, and essentially that's it. Okay, there's some exceptions, but pretty much one clear motive. Here we go. First, so you have to defeat one, join one, and be romantic with one. We have Plankton.
Okay.
We have Ice King.
Okay.
Let's talk current day Ice King, right? Not like all the Simon stuff. And then Mr. Crocker, Denzel Crocker from the Fairly Odd Parents.
I'm going to tell you full disclosure. I have backups planned, but one of my groups of 3 included Plankton and Mr. Crocker as well.
Ooh, dang!
One of my groups. I didn't have Ice King. I had a different third person. But that's actually really funny that you say that. So I already had 2 of these characters in mind. That's hilarious.
That is hilarious. And I actually, you know what? I'm not going to say it out loud, but I think I know maybe what your other guess would have been, because I think I almost had mine in that list too.
Do you know who my third would have been?
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Because I'm not going to use that group. I'll use a different group.
Okay. What was it?
I want to know what your guess was.
Well, I'm not going to say it because mine's actually in my other top 3 list now.
Okay.
So we'll just wait.
All right. My group of 3, I'm going to skip it for me. I had Plankton, Mr. Crocker, and Professor Calamitous from Jimmy Neutron.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That almost made it, but it didn't.
Oh, that would have been an interesting 3. I'll skip that for you. But for me, we actually have Plankton, Ice King, Mr. Crocker. Defeat, join, romance. I didn't realize that 2/3 of one of my own groups was going to turn against me.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Oh, how the tables have turned. I think, here's what we're going to have to do. I'm a little torn on this, actually. But I think, like you, I'll start with defeating, all right? I think that I have very little interest in having positive relationships with Denzel Crocker. So I think Denzel Crocker is going to be who I defeat. I think his madness and desire for fairies has warped his mind. He's got that weird hunchback thing going on. I think we're going to knock him out. We're just going to knock him out. Going to defeat him. There are no fairies. They're not real. You're crazy, Mr. Crocker. Lock him up.
Wow, just like that.
Just like that. But that does leave me with romancing or joining Plankton or the Ice King.
No matter how you answer this, it's going to be hilarious.
And I think I have. I'm a little torn on this, but I think I'm coming down to having a romance with none other than Plankton. I think if I can tear him away from his computer wife for just long enough, I think we could go out on a great date. I think we could scheme together. I think we might just be able to get that Krabby Patty formula in like a night. I think I have the common sense to ground his mad genius, and I think together we could do something really cool, but like one time, right? You know what I mean? I'm not joining forces. I think it's just a fun date. We're gonna romance. I'm gonna.
There's implications with romance, Weston. Don't forget the I word.
I don't know what we can do romantically. But
yeah, there's a pretty big size difference if you really think about the size of an actual plankton.
Honestly, it comes down to what he's comfortable with when it really comes down to it.
You've got like a little like petri dish with a.
But then ultimately, I think I'm going to join forces with the Ice King.
Wow.
1, he's a king. 2, he's magical. And I'm a big fan of magic. And if I could get a little piece of that magic, even if it costs me a little piece of my sanity, I think we could have a lot of fun. I think he's up for goofs and gabs. And ultimately, definitely. I don't think he's down for pure evil. I think he's just he wants a princess, you know?
But you're joining his forces, right? So you're going to have to kind of help in the aid of that.
That's right. We'll get a princess for him. He'll help me get a princess for me. We'll live together in his giant ice mountain. It'll be great.
I mean, you know what? I see that working out. Just hanging out. You're two strong forces trying to get some princesses.
Just 2 strong dudes getting princesses, and there's a penguin.
And there's a Ganta. Oh man, I miss those days. I loved that show. Okay, I like that. I really like those answers. Those are good. I almost can't believe that you're gonna try and romance Plankton, but I'd love to see you try.
I was a little bit torn. I really was. It could have gone either way on that one. It really could have.
That's so good. So good.
All right.
Well, I guess you're up.
For you, yeah. Romance, join, or defeat. Since Plankton and Mr. Crocker have already come up, I'm going to jump back to Disney. I promise my third group won't be Disney related. But we're going to jump back to Disney just because a lot of people know Disney, and you probably know these villains as well. So we're going to jump back into the area of familiarity a little bit. And for some reason, these 3 in my mind share some kind of similarity in their personality of some kind. I can't explain it, but join, defeat, romance. We've got Mufasa from Lion King.
Okay. Wait, do you mean Scar?
No, Scar, Lion King. I said Mufasa. I'm like, that's not right. Scar. I had to look it up real quick. I was like, I'm stupid. Scar. So that's from Lion King. I know that's he's not a villain. Scar from Lion King, Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Jafar from Aladdin.
Okay. Wow. So these are all very vague, well, except for Scar. I know Scar. But I do remember each of these. I remember now that I'm looking it up again. Frollo, I feared Frollo.
He's a sinister dude.
He is sinister. I feared Frollo.
He's a scary guy.
I remember Jafar having quite the personality, and then of course you got Scar, who was just evil. So this is a tough one. I'm going to start with defeat once again. Honestly, get the hell out of here, Frollo. I'm not playing your... you are too much. You're too sinister, like you said. That's a great word to use. In fact, I'm looking him up on Google, and just this one image, it's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 down, and like the shadows against the top of his face. He looks so evil. I don't need that. Especially I don't want to join it, and I don't want to be romantic with it. So he's gone.
He's actually like one of the Disney villains. It's like the most realistically evil. Like this guy could exist in real life.
That makes it even worse. Yeah. But also better in a way, I guess. But yeah, I'd have to rewatch Hunchback of Notre Dame because it's been so long. But
it's worth it. It's great.
So next we got Jafar and Scar. I just realized who I left myself with. Oh, God.
Yeah, you've got to romance one and join the other. You've got Scar from Lion King and Jafar from Aladdin.
You're not going to believe what I'm about to say.
Oh, my God. It's happening.
What I'm about to say.
So, here we go.
Given the choice between a human and a lion,
yeah,
I will be romancing the lion.
Okay, explain.
So, listen, Scar, I don't want to have anything long-term partnership with, especially considering that he's murderous, right? And he's not afraid, he murders his own kind. You'd think someone who's like, a sentient animal, or not sentient, that's the wrong word to use, but an animal that can speaks English, right? Would have a very intelligent animal would not want to kill its own kind, unfortunately. It does. And of course, it kills one of the greatest lions to ever live. So
that just really gets you going.
But I will say this though: the hair, the green eyes.
Yeah, is that what's doing it for you? The long black mane.
The long black mane. That's the word. Yeah,
eyes.
mane. Just this. He's kind of slender. He's more slender than Mufasa.
That lithe frame.
Let me just say, it would be a zoo. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. We need. Oh
this
boy.
This is Ripper-Roo all over again.
This is Ripper all over again. Throwback. So yeah, I think. But once again, the true reason though, that's just a perk, right? Is the romantic part. The true reason is that I just don't want to stay allied with Mufasa because I don't stand for the choices that he's made. So
allied with a Scar, rather.
What I say?
You said Mufasa because I
said Mufasa too. I meant Scar. Yep.
Yep.
Plus the hyenas annoy me. Not dealing with it. So
fair enough.
But one night, who cares? So next we got Jafar. I don't remember a whole lot about Jafar, but I remember enjoying his personality. I can't remember much about what he even stood for. It's been a long time since I've seen Aladdin.
He's
Can you
scheming,
remind me?
trying to become the Sultan, achieve ultimate power when he realizes he can become a genie.
You know what? What's wrong with having ultimate power? I mean, I'd like to be a genie. I'm with him. Let's go.
All right, joining forces with Jafar,
Plus, I love the
romancing
parrot.
Scar, and of course, defeating Frollo. All right, I like those answers.
That's good.
What you got for me?
I would say we have time for another round, really quick.
We do. We got time.
Okay. We
Because
got nothing
I got
time.
you one. You gave me one. I got you a second one. You can give me a second one. Let's do it.
No, you give me a third one. I'll give you a third one. Okay.
I will give you a fourth one.
A fourth? I don't know if I can go that far.
I keep going. I got lots.
So I'm trying to think here. There's two different choices I want to make, but okay, here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give you. I have two that I'm gonna choose from. I like them both, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you just the category, and then I want you to pick based on the category. Okay.
Okay.
So I've got a category called handsome.
Oh.
And then I've got a category called not typical, but that's just because I didn't have a better name for it.
You know what? That piques my curiosity. Let's go with not typical.
Okay, not typical. So this kind of goes back to me saying not super conventional. These aren't Disney villains or anything. So
That's
number
fine.
one, Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents.
Oh my God. Okay.
Remember Vicky? Okay.
Yeah,
Next
I do.
is Mr.
like her.
Burns. Okay.
Mr. Birds.
And
The
final
Simpsons.
is Doofenshmirtz.
Doofenshmirtz. Okay. I'm definitely not going to spell that right. I did spell it right. I'm a goddamn
It's spelled
genius.
easier than you think. It's pretty much spelled like you'd think it'd be spelled. So who are
Have
you
you
going
ever
to
seen-
defeat? Who are you going to join? And who are you going to possibly have relations with?
Oh my goodness. Okay. This is a little untypical. They would definitely be considered villainous. We got Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents. Got Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. This is interesting. I think
I'm already laughing.
I feel like it's kind of clear to me a little bit. I think it's clear.
Oh, okay.
I think it's clear. I'm like looking at like pictures of each of them and trying to decide if I'm sure. But I think what we're gonna go with, and You know what? I'm second guessing myself because
Oh, boy.
The wrench in my system. I'll say the wrench in my socket here is Mr. Burns. He's the wrench here. Like he's
Okay.
got a lot going on for him, right?
Yeah.
Like he's kind of on the old side, but he's rich. He's got power and money, right? He's got that going for him.
He's gone bankrupt a few times, just so you know.
But he always comes back.
He does come back. That's true.
He always comes back. There's no stopping this man.
Yeah.
I do feel like maybe like if I romanced him, I do feel like I'd be getting kind of involved in this sort of love triangle though. I do feel like that I'd be inserting myself into something that I don't know. I don't know if
Pun intended.
I don't know if I'm comfortable with coming. Hey now, I don't know if I want to get in between that. So I think ultimately that's the reason why I have to defeat Mr. Burns.
Wow.
I have to defeat
okay.
him. I have to take him down once and for all. He's caused the city of Springfield far and away enough trouble.
Yeah.
It's
Wow. Okay.
it's
So just like that,
time for
Mr.
him to
Burns is
retire.
gone.
That's right. And that leaves me between romancing or joining Vicky from Fairly Odd Parents or Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. And I think once Mr. Burns is out of the way, it becomes pretty clear to me that Vicky, I think we should go on a date and have some ice cream, one of those big old fat milk chocolate shakes from the intro of the show.
Yeah.
I think we could go on one of those classic, like, I don't know, like 60s or something date. We go to the soda bar, the soda pop, whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Go to
Soda
the
hop,
roller rink.
or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the soda hop. Get some soda. Get maybe a root beer float. Go hit the roller rink. Have some classic date fun. I think that would be like a fun time. And that would be my romance choice. And then I join forces with the mad lad himself, that no matter what happens, he always comes back with some crazy invention. The genius himself, Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Doofenshmirtz something incorporated.
Because if there's something that I have to respect, it's his tenacity. Knowing where he comes from, his broken childhood, and making him who he is. Gotta respect it. I think I gotta join forces.
You know what? I respect your decision. Respect the grind. I mean, there's always a platypus getting in the way. Like, that's kind of embarrassing. But you know what? He tries again next week.
Always. In fact, a lot of his driving force behind everything he does really ultimately is to impress the platypus. And I think...
it's true.
I think that, you know what? I think that means at the end of the day, like... he's not like a mean-hearted person, right? So I think I can feel good throwing my hat in the ring with him.
Yeah, okay. I can get down with that. Those are good. I like those.
There you go. That's my selection. I have so far joined forces with Doofenshmirtz and who was the other guy I joined forces with?
You joined forces with Ice King.
Ice King, that's right. I've joined forces with Doofenshmirtz and Ice King. You have joined forces with Jafar and Professor Radigan.
Professor Radigan, what a weird trio so far.
You have to say it like that. Professor Radigan.
Radigan, I'm a rat.
I do recommend watching that movie. It's one of my favorite.
Good.
It's actually one of my favorite Disney movies.
Usually the deep cut Disney movies are the better ones anyway, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the ones that no one watched when they came out are like the best ones now.
The good ones, yeah.
But that's gonna do it for today's episode of Animated Villains Defeat Join Romance. Thank you for listening to Profoundish. If you want more of us individually, you can find everything that I do on my website, westonhasty.com. I have a gaming YouTube channel called Magic Man Mo. I have another podcast called A Hasty Podcast. Again, all my stuff, westonhasty.com. Alex, where can we find you?
For me, it's simple. It rhymes. It's alexduquette.net. That's Alex, and then DUQUETTE.net. You can find all my happenings on YouTube. I do music, and then I also have a podcast as well called The Two Piece Podcast with my better half. So check that out, but everything you can find right there.
That's going to do it for us. Before you go, make sure you rate this podcast wherever you are listening to it with a 5-star or a like. If you're watching on YouTube, a like, whatever. Do all of the things, but whatever you do, thank you for listening. And until next time, bye.